HOA Karen holds court to evict federal judge. He sent her to real prison. I have spent 40 years on the bench of the United States District Court. I have presided over RICO cases, counterterrorism tribunals, and multi-billion-dollar corporate fraud trials. My gavel has sent corrupt senators to federal prison and dismantled organized crime families. My name is Thaddeus Marshal, and when I retired, I hung up my robe, bought a historic estate called The Columns on the edge of town, and planned to spend my remaining years reading history books and tending to my prize-winning orchids. I wanted peace. What I got was Patricia. Patricia was the newly elected president of the Heritage Heights HOA, a subdivision that had been built on the cow pastures bordering my estate. Patricia was a woman who believed that the bylaws of her little club superseded the Constitution of the United States. She was petty, vindictive, and deeply prejudiced. She saw an older black man living in the largest, most historic house in the county, and her brain simply couldn't process it. She assumed I was a squatter, or perhaps the help who had overstayed his welcome. She didn't know I owned the land, the mineral rights, and the air above it. She started with these citations. Violation, loitering on porch. Fine, $100. I was reading. Violation, commercial traffic. Fine, $500. My former law clerks came for lunch. Violation, unapproved landscaping. My orchids. I filed them in the trash, right next to the junk mail. I am not in her HOA. My deed dates back to 1920. But Patricia didn't care about jurisdiction. She cared about submission. When I didn't pay her fake fines, she escalated. She started holding HOA Court in her garage on Tuesday nights. She appointed herself the Chief Justice of the neighborhood. She actually wore a Halloween costume judge's robe. It was a mockery of the profession I had dedicated my life to. One evening, I received a certified letter, not from a court, but from the High Tribunal of Heritage Heights. It stated that due to my contempt of court, ignoring her fines, my property had been condemned, and I was ordered to vacate within 24 hours. It was laughable, until she showed up. It was Saturday morning. I was sitting on my veranda, enjoying a cup of Earl Grey and reviewing a draft of a memoir I'm writing. A white SUV pulled up. Patricia got out. She was wearing the robe. She was holding a wooden gavel she bought at a toy store. And she had a man with her, a locksmith. Thaddeus, she screamed from the driveway, banging the gavel on the hood of her car. Order in the court. You have ignored the judgment of this HOA. You are hereby evicted. I took a sip of tea. Patricia, I said, my voice projecting with the practiced resonance of a federal judge. You are making a mistake. Go home. I am the law here. She shrieked. This is a gated community, and you are a blight on it. You don't fit the demographic. You don't follow the rules. Locksmith, drill the door. The locksmith looked at me. He looked at the house. He looked at the crazy woman in the robe. Lady, this doesn't look like a foreclosure, he said nervously. Do it, she yelled. I have the paperwork. I seized the deed. It's mine. She waved a piece of printer paper in the air. That is a laser-printed Word document. Patricia, I said calmly. It is not a legal instrument. And if you step onto my porch, you are committing a felony. You're just a squatter. She spat. You think because that you can just take what you want? Well, not in my neighborhood. I'm taking this house back for the decent people. She marched up the steps. She raised her gavel like a weapon. Get out. That's when the cavalry arrived. You see, as a retired federal judge who handled high-profile organized crime cases, I still have a permanent security detail assessment. I had pressed the panic button under my side table the moment she pulled up. But I didn't just get the sheriff. I got the U.S. Marshals service. 3 black Tahoes tore up the gravel driveway, boxing her in. 6 deputy marshals in full tactical gear poured out. Federal agents. Get on the ground. Patricia froze. She looked at the marshals. She looked at their AR-15s. She looked at me. W what? She stammered. I'm the HOA president. He's the criminal. The lead marshal, a man named Deputy Vance who had guarded my courtroom for 10 years, stormed up the steps. He didn't look at her fake robe. He looked at the threat. He grabbed her arm and spun her around. Drop the weapon. He barked, referring to the toy gavel. She dropped it. You are under arrest for threatening a federal official, attempted burglary, and extortion. Federal official? She wailed as he cuffed her. He's just an old man. That is the Honorable Judge Thaddeus Marshal, Deputy Vance said. his voice dripping with disdain. And you just tried to evict a federal judge from his own home with a toy hammer. The locksmith threw his hands up. I didn't do nothing. I thought she was crazy. She is, I said, standing up. I walked over to where she was pinned to the ground. Patricia, in my 40 years on the bench, I have seen murderers, thieves, and traitors. But I have never seen anyone quite as foolish as you. You wanted to play judge? Well, now you're going to meet a real one. She was charged with everything. Impersonating an officer of the court, a serious crime, trespassing, stalking, and hate crime enhancements due to her racial slurs recorded on my security system. The HOA Court was dismantled. The HOA itself was sued into bankruptcy by the other residents who were horrified to learn their president was holding kangaroo courts. Patricia didn't get bail. The magistrate judge, a former clerk of mine, saw to that. She pleaded guilty to avoid a federal trial where I would be the victim witness. She got 4 years in federal prison. I hear she's working in the laundry. Maybe she can learn to iron a robe properly. I'm still here. The orchids are blooming beautifully this year. And sometimes, when the wind blows through the columns, it sounds a bit like a gavel banging, calling the neighborhood to order. Patricia wanted to be the judge, jury, and executioner. But she ended up being the defendant, the convict, and the inmate. That I have a question for you guys. Do you think 4 years in federal prison was a harsh enough sentence for terrorizing a neighborhood with a fake court, or should they have thrown the book at her? Let me know in the comments below that if you loved seeing this gavel-wielding Karen get overruled. Smash that like button and subscribe.